do they come up with your property tax dollars? Ooh, this is a big topic of conversation because there are revaluations happening in a lot of different areas, which means some homeowners are thinking, oh, I don't understand why my tax bill got so high. So let me just break down for you some of the details behind the story on property taxes. First of all, your house, the one that you love, has two values. The first value is the market value. That's the one, if you call me and say, hey, Lee Brown, come sell my house. And I say, hey, what's up, friend? I'm coming right over. I'm going to give you an ish ballpark of what the market would bear for your house right now. This second number is the assessed value. For the assessed value, the county tax office did not call Lee Brown and get a number. They said, poof, there's a number. They don't come look at your house. They don't know about your upgrades or the lack of upgrades. They don't know about the repairs that you've done or the lack of repairs. They don't know if you have improved the curb appeal or done zero and all your shrubs have died. They're using an algorithm and a number to put a number on your house. So it's not exact. If you're the person, by the way, whose assessed value is higher than market value, you can dispute that. And that's when you call your favorite local realtor and we can send you some comparable sale data that you could use in your appeal to the county. And if your assessed value is lower than your market value, then my advice is keep your mouth shut. Why do you want to pay more in taxes? Because as a home buyer is looking at properties in the market, they should ask about the assessed value, so they'll know the property tax implications. But they should also know, if you're buying, listen, that assessed value has no relationship to market value, except for how it impacts your monthly payment. Now, you're understanding those two schematics. So let's look at the assessed value and where it comes from. You should know that in North Carolina, and if you're in another state watching my videos, hey friend, what's up? Check out what your state says about this. In North Carolina, a municipality, a county, the governing property tax body must reassess a property at minimum once every 8 years. That means some areas assess more frequently, others take their own sweet time. And this can cause a real disconnect because right now I'm making this video in 20 and 25. If I go back 8 years, I'm now in 20 and 17. Holy smokes, where is time going? But the market in 2017, wildly different than the market now, because in those intervening 8 years, we had COVID, and COVID really set the markets on fire. So property values have gone up dramatically in the last 8 years, which means if you're like the average American homeowner, did you know that the latest data show the average American homeowner stays in their house 13 years? That means it's 20 and 25. If you've been in your house 13 years, you bought in 2012, which means you bought at the end of the Great Recession when things were still on sale before we started army crawling out of the hole. That means you bought at a really good time and now values have gone way up and you haven't moved. And so it's going to irritate you a little bit that your values are up even though you haven't moved. Well, the good news is your value's up. Most homeowners like their property value going up. They just don't like the taxes going up. And frankly, if you haven't been shopping for a house since 2012, you will experience some serious sticker shock over what real estate goes for. Now, I have sticker shock and I've been in the business 25 years. I do this every day and I still run a little search and look at a house and say, what? They're getting that much for that? And then I have to overcome my own sense of shock. So I get it. If you're a homeowner, the shock value can be dramatic. And so now your taxes went up, but you didn't move and your frustration gets really high. So what I want you to do is before you get super emotional, understand the first thing is what your taxes are paying for. And that depends on what county you're in, what municipality you're in. So if, for example, you get sidewalks and parks and rec out of your property taxes, look at the sidewalks. A lot of people use them in town centers and in suburbs and in good areas where people are out and about. You'll have some sidewalks. Well, they cost money. And if you want to build sidewalks in 20 and 25, the concrete cost per yard, way higher than in 2012. The labor cost for that same concrete, much higher than when you bought your house. And so the commiserate costs have gone up. I don't like it either. I'm not asking you to like it. I'm asking you to understand it. And that also means when you have elected officials who promise to bring your taxes down, you've got to ask them some very smart questions. The first one would be, Where are you going to get the dollars for the services if my taxes go down? They should have an answer that involves economic development in businesses, because corporate citizens can pay us tax dollars in a community that will help cover the cost of things. But if you live in an area that's primarily residential, or also known as a bedroom community, that's relying on residential property taxes to pay for things. So your elected officials should be able to say where the money is going to come from if they're not going to cut anything, or if they're not going to add corporate taxes, are they going to make cuts? And so what services are going to get cut? This is a great question to ask. But if your elected officials have just declared that they're going to bring taxes down without answering for services or offsetting income, then you've got to really hold them to task for that, because property taxes are a hot button issue. I get it. It's very painful, especially for senior citizens on fixed income. Those who are scratching to hold two ends together may not be able to handle a higher tax bill. I'm not saying taxes are good. I'm just saying you better understand the underlying picture so you can ask better questions. Now, if you want to fight that assessment and you're in this area of North Carolina, the greater Charlotte area, call me. I'll give you the comparable data so you can argue about your assessment with your tax authority. There's always an appeal period. And then if you live in another area, call your favorite local realtor. And if you don't have one, give me a jingle and I'll connect you to somebody, because we love helping people get a good handle on things. I will just point this out. Back to those two values, if your market value is higher than your assessed value, you don't need to pay more in taxes. And if your market value is lower than your assessed value, that the assessed value is out of whack, that's when you call us and we'll help you appeal it. The biggest thing here is understanding. And by the way, as with anybody who lives life on a budget, if you don't like the spending, then you have to cut something. So we have to make some changes in our own budgets, similar to what's happening in the government right now with DOGE. I'm glad to see waste going away. I'm glad to see fraud going away, because I think that's going to bring costs down organically. So if you don't like your property taxes, maybe, just maybe, ask questions about waste and fraud where you live too.